Welcome back to some more Create Integrated. Now today, the plot thickens. And boy oh boy is this going to thicken up, because we are going to be working towards our progression line. Now, we haven't automated echo ingots just yet, which is going to be needed for us to get into the chromatic compound, which is ultimately going to be required to move forward as we work our way towards getting to replication. But how exactly are we going to set up automation for echo ingots? Well, one method is we can utilize the, echo shards that we've been farming to be able to produce this. It is going to take a little bit, but we would need echo to be superheated, and then that would turn into an ingot via a sequenced assembly. But what if I told you there was possibly a better way, especially if you've dove into Ars and took the time to do that? Also, by the way, just in case you were wondering, how am I writing a Starbuncle? It's super easy, actually. All you need is a Starbuncle charm, and you need the straddle. Yes, the Starbuncle saddle. It is a work in progress, but it does work. And whenever you feed it to it, it turns into a larger version on. It's just so cool to be able to ride. Now back to solving that problem where all good things lead back to this new planarium, and which inside contains our moose farm, which is farming things from jars, containment jars from Ars Nouveau. Now here's where things get interesting, and this may be something that unintentionally ended up into the pack, but I will say I kind of like the idea of this. Because if you have gotten into Ars Nouveau, then you'll have access to this. For those who just want to simply do create, you'll have the other method for generating echo. And that's because wardens should be farmable via the Drigme, especially if there are added loot pools. Now, if you remember, the echo, when we killed it, it technically dropped an echo ingot. And that's pretty darn powerful, and is going to be really, really helpful if we could just farm it via a Drigme. But now, things I will say, not all mobs are farmable via the Drigme. For example, the Ender Dragon and also the Wither typically cannot be farmed. However, they can potentially add to the mob cap value. So there's like a level of different random mobs that you may have laying around that makes these mooses or meese, whatever you want to call them, the Drigme really, really happy. And the happier they are, the more loot they give you, and just the faster overall that they work. So you know what? To be able to test this out, it's probably time that we try to capture a Warden inside of a Drigme jar. So I've gathered some supplies, and I don't know if you remember, but I did make a scroll for the deep dark. And this should allow me to teleport right there into this awful darkness, which I think the Enchanter's Mirror, yeah, still gives me night vision, which is beautiful. Now I need to find a really good position where I know that I could get a Warden to spawn. And once I have like at least the skulk sensor that's nearby, it should make it, yeah, not too bad. Oh, there was already a Warden that I left over here. Oh boy. But yes, right over here, I think will be a good spot. And if we can get the Warden up here or even down on the ground, that would be very handy to do. See if I can get down here without summoning one again right away. Okay, so I'm going to place down the Ritual Brazier. And at the moment, there shouldn't be anything that it can collect. But I brought extra just in case. And then I'm going to put my containment jar nearby. And I've either got to get this Warden over here, which I have no idea where this one's at, unless he's just like inside of the ice structure. Honestly, I have no idea where this one's at, but I need to get one to spawn over here somewhere, which I think, yeah, we should easily be able to get one to spawn. Yeah, I'm sure this is going to get the job done. Just stomp on it. Right on the Skulk Shrieker. Aha, and there he is. Okay. Let's get this guy over here. Let's make some noise. Right over here, buddy. And perfect. He's now inside of the containment jar. That is so good. All right, I'm going to break this because I think one is what we need for now. We may have to come back, though. I mean, I certainly hope we don't have to come back, but we'll see. We'll see how this actually functions here. Okay, so just to kind of match everything else, because I'm sure there's other mobs I'll add to here in the future, I'm just going to place the Warden in, and the Drigmes should recognize that it is within range, and this should be farmable after a few minutes, of course. And there it goes. Look at that. A little green orb did come out of it, so it does mean it is working. Oh my goodness. And yes, it does farm echo ingots, which is the same drop as if we were to actually have killed it. And I tell you, it just looks so much cuter in here like this. So much cuter. But you know what? Also rather sad on top of that. So because this is now starting to farm up, let's go ahead and add the echo ingots to the list. There we go. Echo ingots now added. We're going to drop that in, and then I can fire this lever back on, and that's going to pull those specific things out. And as soon as we add another limited barrel to the mix right here, it's going to go right into there, and it is now going to show up in our system because it is connected to all of them. Beautiful. By the way, in between episodes, I was playing around with like a cart design, and yeah, just experimenting a little bit. Added some of these like little wheels. And originally I had a zombie villager on here, and I thought it was going to stay alive. I even named it. But yeah, it definitely did not last through the day. But you know, I do work out inside of the covered wagon. It's kind of nice. And also, I just really love these like copycat corner slices because they allow you to do so much. And this is the stuff that I wish like I could do in vanilla sometimes. And there's just no way to really get that effect. That's so good. Now on to some more automation projects. I'm thinking we can tap in here. I do want to take some of my liquid source and get it stored into a larger tank. And then this tank right here should stay constantly filled. It is technically tapped in to the main network, but this has been completely done for a long time. The only thing that is constantly being generated is fire essence now anyways. But over here, the source, we want to tap into this because we are going to need to have some in stock and constantly made. And so tapping into this with an external storage is going to be the thing to do. And now source, we need to make sure that is what is defined here. And then I'm also going to set this to extract only. So now we need to start thinking about the chromatic compound itself. Now this stuff right here is pretty special and is going to be needed, and it also has some very special things that it can do. And it actually used to be a part of base create, you know, several updates ago. This of course wasn't its default recipe, but yes, it was a thing that was in normal create. Now right about here, I think is where I'm going to set up another one of these basins, but this one needs to be superheated. So I do need to get blaze cakes over here. Blaze cakes I do have exactly down here. So the goal would be to get blaze cakes from here all the way up onto this depot. To be able to do this, well, you need to know that, well, chutes can technically pull things up through them. And this is a weird create mechanic that it doesn't get used that often, and that's because it's a little bit more tedious than several other methods, but fans can actually suck items in through a chute. So we need to get all the way down here, and we need to just start setting up our chutes and layering them like this. And they do hold items. So right here is going to be the perfect height to have this, so that way we can funnel out onto the depot. But on top of this, well, we're going to need a fan that's facing into the actual chute. And then we need to make sure that our rotation direction is set up correctly, and our chute should tell us. As of right now, it says items move downward, but if the fan is spinning the right way, it'll say items moving upward. So I tapped into here, I've got my chain drives running onto the top, and this right here says items move upward. And what is contained in there right now is a blaze cake, and that's because it has now moved those blaze cakes up and through here, and you can actually see the blaze cakes inside this. And so we'll slap that onto there, and now this depot has a constant supply of blaze cakes. Now this setup might look a little bit jank, but to be able to get our mechanical arm to work, we want to click here and then of course deposit here, and having this upside down is going to allow this to all fit and work, while also keeping this powered. Just like most of our other automations, this one is going to be no different. So we are going to power our crafter, and then we also need to power an exporter down at the bottom because source is going to be required here. So we need a little bit of that liquid source upon demand, which we now have in our storage, and that needs to be sent and kept inside the basin, while our requests are going to have to happen in the barrel, and then we'll get sent into the basin. Then once the product is done, we also need to get it back into the system. And so I'm going to remove this temporarily and place an importer on here, and then just cable it up. Now, if I want this to all flow seamlessly, I am going to need to link to our cables that we actually use to automate our crafter and get that set up all the way over here for our crushing wheels. Yes, this pathing not going to work. Let's see, we should be able to adjust this and tell it, hey, I want you to actually go level with the ground. And then go up. Nice. Place all of that in, things are looking good. So boop, auto crafter on the back, and another boop down here on the bottom with the importer. And now for the fun part, I've got to actually make the crafting recipe. So all of these things need to go in here, but we are going to get rid of the actual fluid. This should be our output that is going to take place. All of these items will be sent out. And then we also need to produce the shards. So this is going to be a nether star that gets processed down into nether star shards. And perfect. We'll just take this and run it over here. And so the shard pattern goes into the crushing wheel area. And then inside of our basin here, we'll put our processing pattern, and then we'll set this to the correct lock mode and lock until all outputs are received. And that way it'll only send one set at a time. And with that, it's the moment of truth. Let's go ahead and try to request one of these. And let's see how it happens. And there goes the ingredients. It pressed it. And now we have our first chromatic compound. And I'm also going to use this to set the filter for this bad boy. And that right there is a major milestone. And it says must be voided and beamed up, which are hints to, well, how we actually use this stuff. So now technically, spoilers moving forward on how we actually convert this stuff. First step being give it light. And well, what gives light? A beacon. So let's take some iron out of here and we'll compress this down into some blocks, because we are going to need enough to at least trigger the beacon to activate. So I'll build a standard super small beacon, and then we'll just place this on top. That should cause a beam of light to stream up in the air. And now with that beacon lit, we just need to toss the chromatic compound through it. And when we do, it transforms into something special that also flies up in the air. Yeah, quite high, actually. Hey, get down here. I mean, if you don't throw it super hard, it's not going to take all of that momentum. And you can actually automate this, believe it or not. You can use funnels to drop it out and go back in. I don't know if this is going to be something we need to 100% automate, but there we go. We now have refined radiance, which can be used to make radiant casing and all kinds of other stuff. But in my pack, it is used in order to make modular routers, to actually make your first modular router. And it is also used in the production of infinity cards. So this is going to be stuff that is going to be definitely worthwhile. The infinite range boosters are going to allow us to access our storage no matter what dimension we're in and no matter how far we are away. I'm not going to set that up just yet because it does require significantly more power, but it is something that we now technically can do. But now this is where things get a little bit harder. So we are going to need to send these into the shadow realm. Well, that is if we want to make shadow steel, which is going to be probably one of the most used components out of the chromatic compound. And my little tooltip, yeah, I thought I almost lost it, which we are about to experience. And that's because for this, we're going to have to take a trip into the end, because this is the easiest place to get to the void, and just throw it into the void. And believe me, this feels just as weird for me as it should for you. I'm going to toss all of them down into the void, and they should come right back up. Yes, right where we're standing. I can use my magnet to pick them up, and we now have ourselves some shadow steel. So yes, you have to toss this out into the world. And is this automatable? Yes, it 100% is. You can also use create funnels and things like that to be able to drop it into the void. And it does come back up very reliably and very predictably. So you know what? Out with the void shimmer goo and in with the new goo, because now we can craft the new upgraded goo. So this uses our shadow steel, and there's our shadow pulse goo. But this shadow goo, while being very, very fast, comes at a steep cost of the shadow steel ingots in order to function. So this is not something that is going to be really cheap. So I've built this little area out for the shadow pulse goo. I'm going to place it right here. Now, the thing with all of these goos, right, is that they have 6 sides, and it is really hard to connect it to anything if you want to maximize the amount of sides that you want to use. So just setting up an area like this is something that I wanted to do. It's not necessarily going to be connected to anything, but I do want to make it easy to connect things to it. For example, off of this lantern, I think I can use some of these girder, like these diagonal girders here. And let's see, can I change the direction? So that way placing a block will be easy. That's something that I kind of want to do, right? Maybe not. Maybe placing it sideways is not going to be super easy. Aha, there we go. That looks a lot nicer. And so what I can do, I'll remove the lantern And then I'll just place a girder, and I think that'll look kind of nice. Like this is like a sort of a support that allows me to place a block on the backside here. So now let's go ahead and awaken this Shadow Pulse goo. And all we've got to do is click the Shadow Still on here, and this bad boy is live. So now at this point, you may be wondering, Chosen, are you going to have to farm a bunch of ancient debris and netherite? Because this utilizes, well, netherite blocks, right? Not in my pack. Actually, instead, it continues the theme of being skulk related and moves on into using the echo blocks, which is going to be farmed from those echo ingots. So if you set up a farm, much like we did today, getting all of this stuff shouldn't be that difficult, as we can now make like 6 of these and get this farmed up. So I'm going to place this all down just like this, let it bleed into each other, and this should convert. And what I really want to be able to make today is hopefully a Paxel, like an all-in-one tool. That would be really helpful. And there we go. We now have raw Eclipse alloy blocks. Ah, so good. 22 of those to be exact. And let's switch over to our smelter so we can just toss these down on the ground and smelt them all up together. And now we have Eclipse alloy ingots. And boy, are our quest happy. Let's see what random rewards. We got a creature catcher there. Okay, we got an experience holder. Very nice. And probably even more goodies to be had here. And we got a simple block placer. Like, so just some nice random rewards. But this material right here is required in order for us to make the advanced swapper block, which is 100% going to be required if we want to get into replication, because our next major steps are going to be setting up a time crystal automation. Yes, if you've seen me do it before, well, you're going to see it again, and we are going to get that bad boy transporting a very specific block through the overworld, into the nether, and back into the end, and then back home. But you know what? We'll save that automation for another day, because today, like I said, I want to utilize some of this Eclipse alloy outside of that. Making this stuff should not be too difficult at this point, but what is going to be more difficult is getting all of the tools made up and getting them powered. So to be able to make the Paxel, we need an Eclipse alloy pickaxe, and then we're also going to need an axe, and last but not least, we're going to need a shovel. Oh, this is going to be such a nice tool upgrade. And then we'll put all of this inside of a smithing table. I think I have it. Yeah, I have a smithing table on me. There we go. Throw these all in here, and they do have to go in a specific order. Pickaxe going here, axe going here, and then everything combined together, and we get an Eclipsed alloy Paxel. So nice. Just all of the tools in one. The default break speed, not too horrible, but I would still like to keep like a fortune version of this. Like I want one that has silk touch, and I don't know if there's upgrades that can let us toggle on and off. We do have ore smelter. That's kind of nice. Yeah, I definitely think this tool is going to be more suited for just silk touch. Like having silk touch on it is going to be the way to go, I think. So I think this is going to be pretty nice. We'll go over here to our XP station, and I'm going to put silk touch efficiency and unbreaking on here. And unbreaking is going to be really nice. It's going to help reduce the overall cost every time we use this on our power. So this doesn't actually have durability, which is very nice, actually. So yeah, instead of using our durability, it's going to use power from our power grid, which is kind of nice. It doesn't insta break as of right now. Not super duper amazing with even having efficiency on here, but it will become a whole lot better later on down the road for us, as the upgrades, for example, X-ray and many others, are kind of ridiculous. Now, we've been doing a lot in the deep dark, but I do want to go back to the deep dark, because if I want to make that upgrade, we are going to want a few different things. So for example, I'm going to want a skulk sensors, and I'm also going to want these shriekers. We're getting back from all of that. Upgrade for the X-ray, and that's where this just becomes really powerful, right? Is that it does have an insane amount of upgrades that we can put on it. And the X-ray one, very cool. As soon as I right click, it does X-ray around me. You can't make this stuff up. This is such an insane tool, especially when we're in our mine. So for example, we're down in the mine. As soon as I right click, it X-rays everything around me. And so I can now see all of the ore that exists right here. and I've just taken it all. It's amazing. And the further we go down, the higher the likelihood of us finding diamonds, for example. This is ridiculous. Now, all of those upgrades are cool and well, but the big upgrade, the upgrade that I really want, is the Insta Break upgrade. The Insta Break upgrade, man, that one is just such a nice one, meaning you don't have to have a beacon nearby or anything like that to insta mine. And it basically insta mines just about everything, which for clearing out areas, for example, if we wanted to mine out a section of this this big mountain here, clearing out and smoothing things out would be a whole lot easier because of this Paxel. But of course, the Insta Break upgrade does not come cheap. It is going to require time crystals, which we currently do not have. And that is going to be something that we're going to have to work on potentially next episode. Now that all of that is out of the way, there is something extra that I kind of want to show, especially if you've made it this far in the series and you've also made it this far throughout the episodes. There is something really fun that you can do in my pack that you may want to try out yourself. If you make yourself a cut paste gadget, we can move some of these cool create structures into our own base. For example, over here we have this windmill. It's not functional, but we can make it functional, but I want to get it into my own base and potentially put it over here. And while we could use create to make a schematic of this, tear the whole thing down, and then let the schematic cannon rebuild it, why go through all that hassle when we can just take it out of existence and then just paste it over here? Before I just start using the cut paste gadget to cut this thing out, there's a few things that I want to do. I want to make sure and go in here and make sure there are no looter chests and make sure all of the looter chests are broken. This is going to be very helpful in making sure that we don't crash, which is a very good possibility sometimes when using the cut paste gadget. So once all of those are done, also I do recommend doing a backup. So I will say backup and then start and then give it a name. We'll call it backup cut. And then once that happens, that should start a backup for us. Now, while that backup is happening, we can actually start to set our cut position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this intersection right here, just a simple right click. And then on the other side, this is where I'm going to set my shift right click. And this is going to mark our bounds that we want to cut from. So this position right here, shift right click. And now we have this red bounding box. Oh, this is going to be so good. Okay. So how do we actually increase this? Well, what we're going to have to do is take a look at this by holding G and go into the settings menu, and we can start to play around with this. Now we notice that this middle section is our Y value, and this increases the Y value of our full bounding box. But we actually want this to be collapsed. And if we start increasing the one on the bottom, this is actually going to increase the scale from the bottom set up. And that's going to be pretty important here in a second. So let's get this all the way down to the ground, just like so. And then we need to start increasing this to cover and encapsulate the entire thing. And we need to get a little bit higher, it looks like, to be able to make sure that we are fully encapsulating this whole thing. Yes, which we are currently not. So let's continue this up. Right about there. That actually seems like it is fully encapsulated and ready to go. Now I've just got to wait until the backup's finished. Now with the backup finished, all we have to do is step up here so we get a nice view of this, especially as the sun is setting. And then we hit cut. And then we, fingers crossed, hope everything works out. As you can see, like, because I got rid of all of the looter chests, I shouldn't have any errors that pop up. And hopefully we don't get any crashes. But my goal is to move this over to our base and actually make that windmill functional. Now that I've made it over here and I have slept, let's go ahead and place this bad boy like right over here somewhere. And what we can do is anchor this. Now that it's anchored, I can really start to line this up and make sure it's in the correct position by manipulating our X, Y, and Z values. So this is sort of centered. I think one more over, and that is basically perfectly centered, at least centered with that section. But I'm trying to think. I think this is here. You know what? I am going to stick with this being sort of centered. And let's take a look at the back area here, because this is going to get cleared out and we're going to have to kind of terrain blend this a little bit. I am noticing right off the bat, this is too high. So we're going to bring that down so it is completely level here. But so far that looks pretty good. And that's basically where I want it. Like, I don't want it too close. I think that looks pretty good. You know what? Maybe moving this a little closer to center here might actually be a little bit better and nicer looking. I don't know. Let's take a look. So if I'm walking through here, you know what? That's not horrible being over here. I'm just going to leave it for right now. And all I've got to do now is make sure we're in paste mode and then right click. And this is going to delete everything that exists where it currently stands. It is going to void it, by the way, and then it's going to place it all in. This is so nice. And you can do this with just about any structure. Like I said, just make sure that if there are looter chests, you get rid of those looter chests because that can potentially cause you to crash. But there we go. Now to help me with this next step, I'm going to use the Tablet of Flight and then a Ritual Brazier. And we also need a jar to have a little bit of source in it or a constant supply. Right now I'm just using this temporarily. So I'm going to place this jar down and I'm going to place the ritual and give myself flight, believe it or not. This ritual, whenever I double tap, should give me create a flight. You can see right here. Perfect. And this is going to be very helpful because now what I want to do, make this windmill functional. And that means going through this entire thing and gluing all of these components together. Now, since there's going to be nothing really attached to this, what we can do is go all the way up from one corner to the other and try our best to attach this thing. Something like this, for example. I just want to grab as much as I possibly can within an area like this. And there we go. It doesn't look amazing, but it is all technically connected and glued together. Oh yeah, and don't forget to glue in the button. Now in the back, I'll also take this connection and glue it to this. And then we need a windmill bearing. This thing right here. So we'll take the windmill bearing. I'm going to place it just like so. It's not going to be powering anything, but as soon as I click this, it should turn this into a functioning windmill. And I think I want this spinning the other direction. To do this, we click on here and we just change it to spin in a different direction. And there we go. We now have a functioning windmill off in the distance. I mean, that just gives so much life to this area. Now I'm going through a little bit of an upgrade process. I'm just kind of like upgrading this and making it look a little bit better than its original by making it fit a little bit more in with everything else I've done. And I think so far, so good. Let's see. This can strip, right? Yes. We'll make all of these strip logs. I also converted the middle section to brick and added some of my own banners. So there you go. I think today, pretty successful. I ended up not only getting through and getting into the late tiers of Just Dire Things, but we were also able to successfully move a windmill from over here, which I thought was just kind of odd and out of the way, and move it into the base and kind of spruce it up a little bit. And it looks so nice just having another functional and actual moving component in our base. The aesthetic of this, so good for the area. But now with all of this, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. And if you did, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Well, give this video, guys, a huge thumbs up. And now, without further ado, it's time for me to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. That amazing thanks is going to go out to Dana Sink. Thank you so much for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and just supporting my content in one of the best ways possible. Thank you so much, boss. And guys, I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. And as always, thanks for watching.